What if a 10-year-old machine could tell a story about the future? Sounds a little bit sci-fi, right? But that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to look back at one of the most beloved pieces of PC hardware ever made, put it head-to-head with its modern descendant, and see what kind of story it tells about where we're headed. Let's dive in. So our story kicks off with an aging hero, a graphics card that, for so many of us, really defined an entire era of gaming, the NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti. Oh man, if you were building a PC back in the late 2010s, you knew this card. It was the absolute heart of so many first-time builds. The whole Pascal 1000 series was a revolution, but the 1050 Ti, it was something special. It was never the fastest, not by a long shot, but it was affordable, it was reliable, and for millions of people, it was the literal key that unlocked the incredible world of PC gaming. It's just a pure icon of nostalgia. And its journey has been pretty remarkable, right? It launched back in 2016, and almost overnight, it became the go-to card for playing huge hits like PUBG at that perfect 60 frames per second. It even had this weird, surprising second life during the first big crypto boom. But the truly amazing part? Nearly a decade later, it's still weirdly relevant. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. According to the Steam hardware survey, the 1050 Ti is still being used by 1.4% of all gamers on the platform. Okay, 1.4% might sound tiny, but get this. The single most popular card on the entire platform right now, the RTX 4060, is only at 4.5%. For a piece of hardware this old to still have that big of a slice of the pie, that's almost unheard of. It's just a testament to its incredible staying power. But, nostalgia and stats are one thing. Performance is a whole other beast. So we're going to put this old hero through the ringer. We're going to test it against today's most popular, most demanding games. The real question is, can it actually survive the modern gauntlet? First up, we're throwing it into an esports titan where every single frame counts. Counter-Strike 2. This isn't about making things look pretty. This is all about raw, competitive performance. And wow, just look at that. At 1080p on low settings, which, let's be honest, is how most competitive players run it anyway, the 1050 Ti is pumping out an average of 177 frames per second. That's not just playable, that's genuinely competitive. The old legends still got it. All right, for our next test, we're taking a little trip down memory lane. We're running a game the 1050 Ti was famous for back in its prime, PUBG. I mean, this was the game that put this card on the map for millions. And you know what? Even today, it absolutely holds its own. On balanced, medium settings at 1080p, it's still hitting that golden 60 FPS sweet spot. This is what's so cool about it. Years later, it can still deliver the exact experience that made it so famous in the first place. Okay, time for the final boss. A game that makes even modern, super high-end hardware start to sweat. The gorgeous and notoriously demanding Cyberpunk 2077. Can it even run it? And the answer is, yeah. Okay, just barely, but yes. By using AMD's FSR upscaling tech, which is this clever trick where the game renders at a lower resolution and AI scales it up to boost performance, it manages to squeeze out an average of 37.2 FPS. Now look, the point here isn't that it's a smooth experience, because it's not. The mind-blowing thing is that a decade-old budget graphics card can run one of today's most graphically intense games at all. That's a little miracle of modern software meeting classic engineering. So the old hero survived, right? It pushed way past its limits, mostly thanks to modern software tricks. But what happens when we compare it to a card that was born in this new era? It's time to meet the modern champion, the RTX 5050, and the new tech it has that, they're less like features and more like actual superpowers. So superpower number one comes from these things called ray tracing cores. The easiest way to think about this is like having a tiny, dedicated Hollywood special effects team living right inside your GPU. Their only job is to figure out in real time how every single ray of light should bounce, reflect, and cast shadows. It creates these incredibly realistic scenes that were literally science fiction just a decade ago. Superpower number two, that comes from tensor cores. These are basically the AI brains of the whole operation. They let the card do this thing that feels like actual magic, called DLSS. An AI basically looks at the game and then it paints entirely new frames in between the real ones. It makes the game look just as sharp, but it runs way, way faster. It's like getting free performance. And this slide, it just says it all, doesn't it? The fundamental difference between these two cards isn't just about being faster. It's about what they're even capable of doing. The RTX 5050 has entire chunks of hardware dedicated to jobs that the GTX 1050 Ti physically cannot do. That's the real technology gap. So, we know the new card has all these new powers, but what does that actually mean in terms of raw performance? Let's try and measure this colossal gap and see what a difference a decade really makes. Let's just put some hard numbers to it, shall we? How much faster is a modern budget card compared to its ancestor from 10 years ago? The answer? It might actually shock you. Let's start with a classic synthetic benchmark, 3D Mark Time Spy. The GTX 1050 Ti, it puts up a respectable score of 2,346. The RTX 5050, a score of 10,000. It's not a step up, it's a completely different league. I mean, the bar chart here just makes that gap painfully clear. So here's the bottom line. When you boil everything down, we are looking at a 5 to 6 times increase in raw performance. What took the old card 6 seconds to do, the new card does in 1. That is just an insane pace of progress. And here's what that raw power looks like in actual games, which is all that really matters. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we go from 40 FPS to over 200. And Cyberpunk, we leap from that barely playable 37 FPS all the way up to a buttery smooth 177. The numbers just don't lie. It is a monumental leap forward. So after seeing a gap that colossal, what's the takeaway? I mean, it's really easy to just dismiss the old card as obsolete, but that completely misses the point. This is all about honoring its legacy while we embrace what this incredible leap means for the future. You see, the legacy of the GTX 1050 Ti isn't about its frame rates in 2025. It's about its insane power efficiency, sipping just 70 watts of power. It's about the fact that it didn't even need an extra power cable from the power supply, which made it the ultimate drop-in upgrade for millions of old computers. It was a marvel of accessibility that brought joy to countless people. And for that, it will always, always be a legend. And that brings us to our final thought. We just witnessed a 500% jump in performance, the birth of real-time ray tracing, and AI literally creating frames out of thin air. It leaves us with one thrilling and maybe slightly terrifying question. If this is what happened in the last decade of PC gaming, what on earth will the next one look like?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.